nostalgic.
Hey there, welcome to Wax Nostalgic. Wax Nostalgic is a show where we look back on the good old days. Laugh with us as we reminisce about past experiences and memories from our younger lives. I'm your co-host, Graham Johnstone.
I'm Sam Bagnall.
And I'm the pun guy, Ryan Kerwin.
Yeah, today we're going to stick to what we were doing before and kind of go with a experience and some sort of item. Today's topic that we're going to start with, today's first topic that we'll start with is going to be video games, specifically the first console that we remember owning and having. I guess I'll start off if you guys are cool with that.
Go for it.
I'm going to talk about the PlayStation 1.
Ooh,
so,
nice.
I guess technically the first console I would have been like a Game Boy, the more handheld stuff.
Yeah.
But since I was thinking more like a console that attaches to a TV.
Yeah.
My family was my parents were fairly against video games for a long time when we were younger, just rots your brain, whatever. Mm-hmm. And my crazy uncle, who I might talk about at some other time, but I won't today, for Christmas one year, got us a PlayStation 1, and we were all hyped, and I'm pretty sure my parents were like, what the hell, why did you do that? You know we didn't want them to have video games, but we got a PlayStation 1. We weren't going to return it, so we started playing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a ton of games from the PlayStation 1 that I very vividly remember, some of the more impactful games of my life. Specifically, the one that I kind of want to talk about today is a game called NHL Rock the Rink, which is a hockey game, of course. It's an NHL game, but it was like pretty edgy hockey game. It was obviously PlayStation 1, so kind of bad graphics, but there was all these like custom teams, so whatever year it was that the game was released, it was like all of the main NHL teams and ranked at the level they were ranked at during that previous season. Mm-hmm. But then there was like a team that was the Cowboys, and it was like they all wore cowboy hats and like gun bandoliers, and there was like
so the teams were like the real teams.
There was real teams,
and then there was like the fun like fantasy kind of team.
Fantasy teams. So there was one that was
nice.
like the Brigade, I think it was called, and they were like army men. So they were wearing like army helmets, and they were all like big tough army guys. And there was the Cowboys, and there was. I should have looked it a little deeper because there was a bunch of other like crazy fun teams, but you could also make your own team and customize what their outfits were and go through like a customized thing.
Whoa!
But
for the era, that's like big.
It was big, yeah. And
it
was super violent. So the fantasy teams on NHL Rock the Rink were something like the Brigade, the Cabbies, Demolition, the Demons.
Wait, what was Demolition?
I think it was, I don't know, but the people on the team were Frank Boomer, Chris Crumble, Bill Dozer,
So it
Dan
sounds like
Dynamo.
Bill Dozer, dude. Nice.
Pretty good.
Sylvian Smasher, Ed Splosion,
Love it.
Rich Wrecker. There was the Demons, the Gangsters, the Psychedelics, which was like a hippie team.
Nice.
The Rattlers, which was the cowboy team.
Did the hippie team do the hard hits as well, or were they pacifists?
Everyone did the hard hits.
Okay.
The Reapers and the Sting. But there was a lot of violence in the like hits and all of that stuff, but they also had like special slap shots where they would do like crazy backflips and like fire would come off the puck and all of this stuff. It was quite fun and kind of edgy at the time, and I think it was an E for Everyone game, but in the background, as I got older, I like went back and replayed it, and in the background in certain stadiums you could hear the announcers talking, and they would be like, oh, and Bill Dozer hits this guy or whatever, but then they would also like you could hear in the background they would be saying like really raunchy shit that you weren't supposed to be able to really audibly hear, but they were dropping some like gnarly, like really sexual stuff and like
Interesting.
bad swears, like using the C word and stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
I like
The C word?
yeah, like
Oh my
I
God.
know. I remember
That's like an everyone game.
Oh yeah, but it was like so hidden
That's
in the
funny.
background that I never noticed it as a kid, and then
The
I went
censors
back.
just didn't even like hear it when they were
Yeah.
doing it, right?
Yeah, and
or
I
whatever.
think
the-
it was just a different era.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Bold choice.
you watch rated R or like rated teen movies from back in the day, or like freaking Indiana Jones, and they're like people getting chopped up in fan blades and shit. So
Yeah.
I feel like censorship was just different then. But yeah, I specifically remember it was just like so fun and like rough and tumble. This like fun hockey game, but then playing it as an adult, I looked back and just like was plugged it in and was playing it with my brother or whatever, and I was like, "Did you hear that?" He was like, "I think I did," and then we kept playing and we heard it again. And we're like, "What the fuck? They're talking about some crazy shit in the background."
It's so weird that they recorded it and then like put it so low that it's like almost subliminal. Like why would they bother with that?
I don't know.
There's got to be some. Maybe it's
Because
like
they're weird, like, some of those game developers, man. It's
That's
like,
true.
I don't know if you heard about, like, the whole conspiracy with, like, people putting, like, images of dicks in, like, Disney,
Oh, yeah.
like,
yeah.
cover art or whatever,
For
or
sure.
something like that, because
Right.
they're, like, disgruntled weirdos or
That's
something.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Little Mermaid's cover had like the city was like just a bunch of dildos or something like that.
It was like, sounds like it's one of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people always want to put in some weird, edgy shit just to see what they can get away with. So,
Yeah.
that's the specific
Yes,
game.
one was like, I remember when that system came out, and I think I was in like middle school, just going into high school, maybe.
Okay.
And dude, like, we were playing like Super Nintendo, and we thought that was rad.
Yeah.
And then my buddy got a PS1, and dude, like,
Oh, yeah.
all we played was Tomb Raider,
Oh yeah,
Nice.
for because it was a fun, really challenging puzzle game.
right.
Yeah.
That was the only reason.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
for sure. Only reason we played Tomb
That's the only
Raider,
reason
for
a
sure.
teenage boy would play Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa, dude, this game is amazing.
And the graphics were so realistic as well.
Anyway, that and Twisted Metal. I used to play Twisted Metal.
Nice.
Metal.
It was
The
awesome.
Spider-Man 1 game is like
Yeah.
a core memory for me.
Yeah.
Jedi Power Battles. There was a Pac-Man game that was like not Pac-Man classic, but like you were Pac-Man. And it was
Oh, the
kind of
3D
an
one?
RPG. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
3D Pac-Man
I think
3D.
I had that one. Yeah.
And you would run around.
RPG Pac-Man.
And, yeah, I don't know
Okay.
if RPG is the right way to say
Okay.
it, but
Yeah.
But it was like an adventure, like
yeah, I think it was
game
called
thing?
Pac-Man 3D Adventure,
That's
and you
cool.
would like
Yeah.
run around the different maps, and it wasn't just like a 2D like
Yeah.
thing you would go on. You would go upstairs and like the
Right.
ghosts would come at you from different angles and all that stuff. It was
I think
Yeah.
like that and like N64 opened up like the 3D
totally
like stuff like
Yeah.
where you're like and I know like the graphics weren't the best sometimes, but like we didn't even care. It was like, holy crap, we can like literally run around 3D worlds.
Yeah,
and,
well,
like,
at
Yeah.
the time the graphics felt so
At the
sick.
time, they
like,
were good,
You're
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, Spider-Man 1, this
Yeah.
is crazy. Like all these bad guys in this 3D world that you can rip through, and then later you go back and you're like, it's like worse graphics than Minecraft.
Right.
Like, they're more blocky than the Minecraft characters that are literally supposed to be blocks.
and
Yeah.
the more detail they tried to fit into like it was like the worse it got.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
But I think-
pixelation factor was so
Oh,
strong.
dude, Gran Turismo too.
Oh, geez.
Or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Gran Turismo was amazing, like racing sim game.
Yeah.
But that was more like a PS2 thing, I think.
Probably.
I think so,
Because
yeah.
Turismo 1 was probably the
I can't
one.
remember. I know we did play Gran Turismo 1 on PlayStation.
Okay.
I do remember playing that. But then Gran Turismo 2 came out and it was like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway.
I think, yeah, like playing those games and loving them despite the graphics looking like potato.
Yeah.
I think it's a good argument that like the gameplay itself is the thing that's more important than like what it looks like. You know, obviously it's nice to have like cool aesthetics and fun characters and stuff like that. But I don't know. I still haven't really, gotten into the whole thing where it's like, oh, I need to buy the newest console because the graphics will be the best, that kind of
Totally.
thing. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like if the game is not fun to play, but it looks great. Should we stop for the siren?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
We're in a very crime-populated area.
We're in one of those cities they talk about.
That's right. The urban areas. I don't know. But yeah, no, I was just saying. I feel like there's a lot of those games where like they put more stock in the graphics than the actual gameplay, and when you're playing it and you're like, wow, this is so cool, that kind of wears off pretty soon, and you just don't want to play it after a while. So yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember like the 16-bit console wars and stuff. Like, that was like everybody's like, oh, it's like the Genesis has better graphics and all this stuff, and it was kind of like, well, and I love both. I love this Genesis and Super Nintendo, but it was kind of like a thing where I was like, yeah, but Nintendo, like, I mean, not to say the graphics are any worse on that or whatever, but it's mostly a schoolyard like you kind of were like fanboying it, in the schoolyard or whatever. But like honestly, like Nintendo's gameplay has they've always been like excellent at making really fun, like engaging games. Even the Switch didn't have like the graphical prowess and the computing prowess of like the newer consoles, but it's one of the best selling systems of all time.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about, this is a bit of a tangent, but I think there's something to be said about gameplay that you can like party play. You can play with your friends. Like you can go sit and play Super Smash Bros with your buddies in your living room.
Yeah.
Whereas like Xbox and PlayStation, all of the new gen stuff, it's all online games. Like you're hard pressed to find an Xbox game that you can play with more than 2 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way that the world went, which there's really cool features with online gaming, but like I think personally the GameCube is like the best console ever made, in my personal opinion.
It had such a great game catalog,
The game catalog was insane. There was so many games you could play with your buddies. You could sit around and play Mario Party or Mario Kart or Mario Smash Bros. Or any of the Mario games.
Right.
And it was fun and easy. You didn't have to go get an internet connection and talk to someone across the planet.
No, I think that was a very astute thing by Nintendo to like, really hone in on like the fun, like multiplayer, like couch co-op, that kind of stuff, or that kind of thing. Because you think about after the GameCube, like the next generation of consoles, it was like the Xbox 360, PS3, I think was the next one, and then the Wii. And the Wii is like, of all those, like the, cheapest equipment, whatever, like, you're not going to get the great graphics, that kind of stuff. But they had, like Wii Sports, which was
so simple
in and of itself, like such a fun, like such a...
Nintendo's also great about like coming up with ways to control your stuff like outside the box. Like the Wiimote and all that was like, so you don't have to be sitting like on your couch like this.
Exactly.
Like you can throw it through your TV screen.
Right.
Exactly.
Knock
they had a
out
whole
someone's
fitness
teeth.
thing. Like I don't know what it is, like a balance board or something.
Yep. And,
but like and then what was it, that DS, I think, had the two screens, and it had like a stylus, which was interesting.
Yeah, and then they did the 3DS, which was kind of hit or miss, but it was interesting.
The one where you could go 3D and you can like blow into the little microphone.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
For WarioWare or whatever, where there's like, blow into this, yell your name as loud as you can.
Right.
They're tracking you.
Yeah. No, and I'll be honest, like when the Switch came out and like I first heard about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's handheld and it's a console. I was just like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, okay, they've gone too far now. But then like I played one for the first time and I was just like, oh, it's really good at both.
I love my Switch.
It's cool because the Switch is, I can take it like to Christmas to like the family's house or whatever. And me and my nephews, like, it's cool because the controllers like pop off. And so literally you have 2 controllers right there, and then I just throw another one in the bag and we can all play like together.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the best, I think, part of it is it's like console, or it's one player, or sometimes like their parents are watching TV, so I'll just set it up on the kickstand, and they'll be over there on the coffee table playing, and I'm like, the ways to play, like, it's so accessible.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, and it's ways that you actually want to play. It's not like, it's not features they added. They're like, maybe this will work. It's like it's actually fun to play it all these different ways. So yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, cool, we kind of got on that. But that's okay, because we're very passionate about this subject.
Yes, there's going to be a ton of talk in the video game world.
Right. Like, I have a feeling it's going to take up a lot of our our shows.
And we were all born in such an era where that was a hugely important thing for us, I think. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Sam's topic of PlayStation 1 and tangent.
Nice.
Who
And
wants to
the
go next?
NHL game. I guess I can go next. Sure. We'll go in reverse order of age.
Yeah, cool.
No offense.
God damn you. I'm not that old. No, I'm just joking. I don't care.
You're only like twice our age. No, I'm just kidding. We're kind of, I guess, going with the first console that we, played a lot, that kind of thing. And so in my house, we actually had the Sega Genesis, but overseas it was released, I don't even know why, I could have looked it up before this, I suppose, but as the Sega Mega Drive, which I think is a cool name too. But yeah, that was our console that we had when we were little kids over in Australia, or maybe we got it when we moved to New Zealand at that point. It was like 95 or 6, that kind of time. And yeah, I don't know. Did you guys have like the Sega consoles back in the day?
Oh yeah.
I didn't have one. My cousin had one, who I spent a lot of time hanging out with. So I played the Genesis quite a bit.
Yeah.
There was some really fun games on the Sega Genesis too. It was kind of crazy that the Genesis just like didn't exist. Like Sega just basically stopped doing video game consoles after that.
Well, they did the Dreamcast as well. And
the Saturn.
Oh yeah,
that's true. The Saturn. Yeah, that's right.
I actually had a Sega CD as well.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Which was like, okay, like honestly, it wasn't that great. Like the graphics it was basically like the same like graphics as the Genesis. Like there was no like real improvement.
Yeah.
But there was full motion video stuff, which was like unheard of up to that time.
Yeah.
You had to have a computer with a CD-ROM drive in order to get that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the audio was like amazing. Like there was like CD quality audio. Like so there were like these games that were like they were like videos. Mm-hmm. They were literal like somebody in a studio got together and like made a script and hired actors.
Oh wow.
And then they like the games were like a lot of them were like video games. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to describe it. Like
video games.
So like there was like a lot of like you click here on this thing and then it takes you to like a fork in the story and then like
so more like what do they call those ones where it's like King's Quest or whatever, that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
choose your own adventure type. I don't know.
Kind of, really, like kind of like that. Yeah,
yeah.
So like there'd be like a script read and their actors would act, and then there'd be like a decision tree or something, or like or like a RPG kind of thing where you like go hunt around. I remember Jurassic Park for the Sega CD was pretty awesome, but like
that would be fun.
Anyway,
did they hire real dinosaurs for that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a tough find, but they got him. Luckily, they worked for peanuts.
I mean,
you need a lot to feed a dinosaur.
That's just to say that like they were really experimenting with different stuff, but like honestly, the Sega CD and like as a whole was kind of not really that. If you looked at technically, was not that impressive.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But dude, the Genesis was.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, all the original Sonic games.
Yeah,
yeah, those were our jam.
I'm gonna let you finish because I want to hear about this, but I do want to backtrack. My cousin had a Sega Dreamcast, not a Genesis, so it was a little later generation.
Gotcha.
I said he had a Genesis, and then you said Dreamcast. I was like, it was Dreamcast in my brain. So anyway, carry on.
Yeah,
Genesis.
no, that's fine. So the Genesis, was like the early mid '90s. So like it's a little before the Dreamcast and that kind of stuff.
Dude, I remember like I don't know if you have this. Did you say you were in Australia at the time?
Yeah, it was Australia or New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay, but like we used to walk into like Target or Walmart, and they had these giant like plastic like console things with like the TV, and then they had the like controllers.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I remember I have like vivid memories of like going to Target and I just like. Okay, bye, Mom, and I just like run and disappear and run straight to there, and I'm playing like Sonic.
Yeah.
And there was this other one. Oh man, I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, I played all, and I just remember playing over and over again. Like
nice.
They had those at my dentist office.
Oh yeah.
Really, your dentist?
I feel like Target and Walmart and stuff like that. They had those like playable games until like relatively recently. I feel like with all the new consoles that came out, they would have like a little demo thing. I don't think I've seen that for quite a few years now at this point.
Do anymore?
No, but I remember
COVID scared everyone.
I remember
off on controllers.
Yeah,
that's right. I remember on the PlayStation 1. I think this might be when we got the PlayStation 1. They had Tekken set up at the store.
Oh, dude.
And my brother and I would just like, my dad couldn't drag us away from it. So eventually we probably already had the console at that point, but he bought us the game. He's like, guys, you can play this at home if I just do this,
Just need to buy a new vacuum cleaner. Let's get
he's like, we're taking too much time at the store. I'm just going to buy this for you.
Yeah. But that was like the first, like fighting game like that we had played because we didn't have any of like, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or anything like that. And our minds were just like blown that... this whole format of games existed. But yeah, I guess going back to the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis, yeah, Sonic games were great. There were also some fun little co-op games as well. I remember there was one. I guess this one wasn't co-op. It was against each other, competitive. But it was like soldiers, and you're like on a little warfield kind of board, and there's like different types of weapons you have and that kind of thing. It's like very vivid in my memory, but I don't remember the name of the game at all.
Okay.
But my brother and I played that one a lot. There was one called Golden Axe. Did you ever play that one?
That was one of the ones that was on the demo cart.
Oh, nice.
I was trying to remember it, but like back when Sonic. And then that was one of the other ones that was on that demo card.
That's one that like I haven't heard of much since then, but I remember loving that game back in the day.
Awesome.
It was
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's like fantasy type stuff. So it's like a barbarian who's like a shirtless Conan like guy with an axe, and he had the sword, right? And then the dwarf who was like short and wearing like green outfit. He had an axe, and then like a female warrior of some description who had like knives or something like that. Yeah, exactly. So like that's right. So I have two siblings, a sister and a brother, and like even at this point, my sister used to play with us, so we each had like our character, So like,
I think the box had like the Conan guy, like
yes.
and his shirt was off.
Yep.
And there was like some maiden, or I think
that sounds very correct. Yes.
Yeah, it was they were very like appealing to that like fantasy.
Yeah,
like,
and it's like the art on the box. Yeah, nice. The art on the box was like so elaborate and like like a very detailed painting, and then you start playing the game and it's like like chop 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 like a few pixels here and there.
Yeah, there it is, dude. That's it.
Yep, there you go. Yeah,
you nailed the description though.
I forgot about the dragon though. But,
yeah, but that was such a fun game.
The other one I was thinking about was Kid something. I can't remember it, man. Let me just Kid something.
Yeah, this is the part of the podcast where we all pull out our phones.
Kid Chameleon?
That's the one!
Oh, the name?
Isn't that like a rapper? Isn't there a rapper?
He's probably named after
Chameleon?
this. Yeah.
Do you remember, so it was a side-scroller game. This was another one that was on the demo cart, and I always played it. I was like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
So you go around, you're like this, look at this skateboarding kid.
Oh, nice.
And then you get...
So 90s.
And you travel around these worlds or something. I don't remember the exact premise. Huh. But in each world or whatever, you hit like a box, and then a thing pops out, and you transform into like different...
Oh.
You transform into different battle style
Oh, that's
things.
Really clever. Yeah.
So one of them you're a knight, and the other one is
a samurai.
something like that. Yeah.
That's really cool. That kind of makes me think of did you guys play Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch?
Mm-hmm. I love that game.
Did you play that?
Dude. Yes.
Yeah, and
that was awesome.
They have like the mechanism where there's different creatures that you can take over with your hat. Mm-hmm. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a fun, cool thing. I can be a T-Rex for 10 minutes.
Right.
Oh, dude, the T-Rex was one of the most fun things. You're just running through everything.
Right, and then you can be like an onion who can grow tall.
And then
Oh, yeah.
A lot of weird ones.
My favorite one is going to Super Mario Odyssey is the bird, where you stick into stuff and then you
That's right. Yep.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a good game. We should have a whole episode just on that game, or just on Mario.
We probably. Oh my god.
Yeah.
We probably could.
Whole Mario segment.
Yeah.
It's funny because nowadays I go over to my friend's house and their kids are obsessed with the Mario movie and just Mario generally. I'm like, man, this is crazy, because when we were kids it was Mario was a big deal, but our parents hated video games.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. My parents, to your point, where they were we're not buying you a TV plug-in console because it's gonna ruin your brain and your vision's gonna, and it was all these excuses about why it was so terrible. Meanwhile, my dad would sit in front of the TV for 6 hours a night.
Right.
watching the news or football.
He would always watch Married with Children and
even worse. Talk about rotting your brain.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Love and Marriage. Yeah.
And what was that? What was that comedy show?
Married with Children.
No.
Or a different one.
It was In Living Color.
Seinfeld. Oh, nice.
Hey, Living Color is great.
That show, I still watch clips of it. I'm like, man, that show's still good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Awesome.
Well, what else you got?
Yeah, good question. I'm trying to think of other games we had for the Mega Drive, but it's such a long time ago. So maybe I'll wrap up my portion there, and we can move on to the next entry in our.
Okay, so I'm gonna go handheld.
Okay.
Nice.
Because
cool.
Well, okay, so it's kind of complicated for me.
Okay. I'm ready. Buckle in.
Well, so the kind of whole premise was like, I think like our first like console or our first like video game, whatever console.
Yeah.
So I actually in like the early 90s, my cousin's son, or my mom's cousin's son. I don't know exactly the relation to me, like technically.
Second cousin. Or third cousin, sorry.
Second.
Second cousin is your mom's cousin. Third cousin is
No,
your mom's
I looked this up.
kid.
I think your mom's cousin is your first cousin once removed.
Oh,
Shit.
Yeah.
see the remove stuff gets
The
messed. I don't
remove
know
had
what that
something to
means.
do with marriage, but I could be.
Like a stepdad?
No,
maybe?
so let's do a quick tangent on cousin stuff. so
So you're a geneticist.
my understanding. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, no, my understanding, because I had to look this up several times for some reason,
Yeah.
because I have various cousins of descriptions that I was trying to describe, I guess, recently. I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is like the first or second cousin part kind of goes back to like which shared like grandparent you have. If you have a cousin, then it's like your grandparent. If you have a second cousin, it would be like a great grandparent, would be like the part where it splits.
Oh.
And then
That makes sense.
yeah, and then
Okay.
like the removed is like kind of more like the generation. So like if it's in your mother's generation, it's her first cousin, then it's still your first cousin, but it's once removed because now you're like the child of that generation.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
Listeners can call in and tell us if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Please comment below
That's right.
with the real answer.
We can also cut
So-
that whole thing from the.
Yeah. It's fine.
We'll see.
It's fine. Anyway, so he goes off to college in like the early 90s, and I'm like, dude, I must have been like 7 or something, 6 or 7. I was like pretty young, but he's like, hey, before I go, here's my Atari 2600.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. And so I had the Atari for like years, and I just remember it's so funny. It's funny like how when I was that young and like that level of technology and all that stuff, like dude, I remember I played that thing so much. I played it over and over and
Nice.
over. And I remember like thinking it was so exciting and all this. And then like I got a hold of it years later, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, because there was one like River Raid or something, or there were like a few that I really like Pitfall. And I put it in, and it was like, bloop, and they're like whatever, and I was like, man, I just for some reason remember this being
Right.
so much
Because
better.
those ones were actually like 8-bit, right? Or
No, they were like
less than that? Or?
they were.
4-bit.
I don't even know how many
1
bits,
bit.
man. Yeah, they were like original bit, like
Yeah, it's just a single bit, yeah.
probably.
It's on or off, yeah. No.
Dude, like very rudimentary, like everything about them. But like
Yeah.
it's funny like that the way that your brain like you think is like the most
Right.
amazing thing, and then you play like, man, this actually isn't really that fun. It's not as fun as I remember it.
I think it definitely like, maybe if you had first experienced that and you were this age or something like that,
Yeah.
like maybe that's one of the reasons our parents didn't quite get these things is because they were already adults. I think like if you watch kids, they can like play with sticks and have a really rich game because their imagination is just like running the whole time. So I think
it's an imagination thing a lot
yeah,
too.
I think like you kind of just layer on a lot more to it without even thinking about it.
You
when
know
you're a
what's
kid.
funny? Like, so I'm going off on another tangent here, but
okay.
Nintendo re-released a lot of the N64 games on the Switch recently, like on their like subscription like online platform thing.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with GoldenEye.
Oh,
Which,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
I still love GoldenEye. I think it's one of the best games ever, whatever.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is I went to go play it, and the controls are not like...
Oh,
this
yeah.
was before the 2-stick.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm used to playing all my shooters now.
Yep.
Movement and tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I get in there and I'm like, oh man, my player's like all over the place.
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't control this.
Yeah, well,
This
because like
control
there's
is
like
shit.
a little bit of like auto tracking to like targets, and stuff. Yeah, that kind of thing.
But
Yeah,
dude, me and my friends used to be so good at that game. We would play it like we'd go like have sleepovers or whatever and play it like all night.
oh
you
yeah,
know, like
oh, it's same. I mean, was that?
I
one?
just can't believe
Yeah.
how much
That's one that
My-
we did that with
Yeah.
too.
I
for
guess
sure.
my like brain like just completely forgot everything like about how to play it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been so
Like,
long. I recently
Yeah.
went back and played that same game, GoldenEye, and the main thing I realized is like when I was younger, I was like my neighbors had it, and it was like, oh my gosh, this game has the coolest graphics. It's so realistic.
that
And
was
then you
the other
look
thing.
back, and it's literally like the gun is just is square on your screen. And it's like doesn't look anything like a gun, or even like the semblance of a gun. It's just like a rectangle. And but at the time, it was like, oh man, this is so. And the golden gun, which is just a yellowish green square on your screen.
But it'll kill them with one shot.
Kill them with one shot kill, and it was like the big thing.
Oh man,
The best part about that game was the soundtrack. The pause screen.
Oh yeah.
You pause the screen.
By the way,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard somebody did like a remix of that, and they made a whole song out of it with like a beat and it's
that's so
freaking
cool.
awesome, man. If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Also,
You'll
like,
appreciate that.
Every time you die, they do like the
And the blood drips down the screen. Yeah.
So good.
Dude, classic for what
Still
it
good,
was.
man.
Yeah.
Still good.
But
Anyway, the reason I say it's a little complicated is because I played that, but I didn't really appreciate it or know kind of what I was doing because I felt like I was like so young.
Yeah.
But what my first console ever that I really like loved and whatever was the Sega Game Gear.
Oh yeah, that one.
Because my parents,
8 batteries like nothing.
Dude, it was looking back again. It was like, dude, the screen's washed out. Like you can't really tell what's going on. There's a contrast thing that like.
And it was
I don't
all
know,
black
man.
and white, and you had the brightness knob on it.
And so my parents were too cheap to buy batteries, so I'd go through one set in like 2 hours, or not even that, like an hour and a half.
Those things
and then
do
I'd
not
have
last
to like
long,
find a plug to plug it in, or whatever.
Could you plug those in? Because we had one, and I just remember like killing tons of batteries, and then being like, "Guess I can't play it."
So next Christmas when I get my stocking
it sounds like your parents probably hit it so that you wouldn't play video games very long.
Game Gear,
So the Game Gear. So my parents, like I said, they refused to get me when I was younger, they refused to give me one plug in the TV. So that was the compromise. And they're like, oh, and my dad was always kind of like, oh, well, this one's color and backlit, so it's better than the Game Boy, which I love the Game Boy too.
Yeah.
And I had friends I used to play. I was like, man, these games are awesome. But still happy with the Game Gear. Tons of like fun with that. It's interesting. So that one I think is based off of the Sega Master System.
Okay.
Which is, I don't think we ever got that in North America. I think it's the 8-bit console that Sega made. It was kind of like a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Gotcha.
Like an NES.
Yeah.
But it was only released in Japan and Europe and those countries.
Oh, okay. Huh.
So Master System, then they came with Mega Drive.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like their 8-bit like handheld basically, but like down-resed with graphics and like some other things.
Yeah.
But one year we went to Puerto Rico. We went to took this cruise. Actually, that's probably going to be my next segment.
Oh,
okay. So anyway,
spoiler alert.
Good, yeah.
So anyway, but we went and I packed my Game Gear in checked bags, and I got there.
Yeah.
Somebody fucking stole it.
Oh no,
dude! You have never seen a kid melt down.
Oh no,
like you did.
That's terrible.
Oh man, I was so upset. Upset. How could somebody do this? They took my Game Gear.
Yeah, that's like an extension of you.
Oh, dude, it was. It was part of my identity.
Oh yeah.
I remember I would mail in for the Sega. There was like some magazine they published, and I would mail in for it. I was like obsessed with it.
Nice.
Anyway,
what was that magazine called? I used to get something similar to it.
Well, there was Nintendo had Nintendo Power.
Yeah, Nintendo Power.
The Sega one, what was it called? I can't remember what it was called.
Sega Power. I don't know.
Could be, actually.
Probably was.
All right, well, time to get out the phone again.
Yeah, Nintendo Power. I used to get that for years and years. It was
nice.
Maybe the only magazine subscription that I ever actually had.
That's a good one to have. Yeah.
I kind of wish I still had it.
Yeah. But everything's on the internet these days.
Damn interwebs.
Yeah.
Sega Vision? Visions. Sega Visions?
Okay.
Does that sound right?
I don't know. I didn't live here.
You should know even more because you were in Japan.
Well, I wasn't there until later. We moved there in 2002.
Sega Power. So. No. Sorry, there's actually a magazine called Sega Power. I don't know. I'm getting them mixed up now.
That's funny.
That is funny. So while you're looking at that, my story with the Game Gear is, so we had one in my family, and we shared it, my siblings. We each had our own Game Boys, but we got just one of those, Game Gears to share. And at the store, it came with one game, and there were two options. One of them, it must have been like something Sonic-y or something like that. I don't know. I might not have been. I don't remember what it was, actually. But there was another one, which was like some game franchise that I had never heard of. None of us had. Haven't heard of it since, really. But I really wanted it because it had a rabbit on the cover, and I thought it was a really cool rabbit. And so I talked my parents into getting that one instead of the other one that was probably a much more fun game. And it was such a weird game. I think it was called Ray Earth or something like that, unless it's a totally different thing. But it was like some kind of RPG thing that we really didn't understand at the age we were, that kind of thing. So basically, I let down my siblings by convincing us to buy the game
Game.
Yeah, that was my...
It's not the rabbit that they've brought back in like the new Mario games, like the rabbit.
No.
Whatever
it's
it is.
like, I believe it was like some fantasy type rabbit. It had like a jewel on his forehead or something like that, or... Yeah, that's about all.
Was it Rayman?
No, Rayman is different. Yeah, no. Oh, are you looking for Ray Earth?
It's got to be this Sega Visions. I think I remember this cover.
Oh, nice.
I don't know
Cool
how,
cover.
but I do.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's
Anyway, all right, that's all I got. I mean, I could talk forever about this.
Sure,
but-
yeah. We have plenty of video game conversation in
Yeah.
our future. We barely scratched the surface.
Right,
Like,
even with all our
topics-
tangents, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
All of these topics, there's like,
Well, it's
I have
like-
another one. I
Right,
have another
because
one.
everything kind of goes into something else. Like,
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I could talk about it for days, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a good time for us to take our break and talk about our not sponsors.
Yeah, who's not sponsoring us today?
Let's tell you. Hello. This is an advertisement for Chaos Bloom Theater in Denver. It is a comedy theater that teaches people to improvise and think on their feet.
Yes, and you can make friends by doing improvisational comedy.
If you don't know how to make friends like us, you can go there and make friends.
Let's try some improv, shall we?
Yes, and
I am a telephone booth.
no, you're not.
You're correct. And that is the conclusion of our ad for Chaos Bloom Theater in Denver.
If you want chaos to bloom and you want to laugh, go there. You will not be disappointed.
Shows are $5.
It's a good deal.
Yes. Cut. All right, guys, welcome back. We just finished up with our break. Thanks for all of our not sponsors for letting us talk about you. And we're moving on to the next topic, which is going to be an experience. We decided on memorable family vacations. Who wants to go first? Graham, would you like to go first since you kind of already started on?
I don't want Graham to
Sure.
go first.
Oh, how dare
I'm
you?
just kidding.
How dare you, sir?
Go for
I
it.
take umbrage to that.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what that means.
That's right, yeah.
He's a
I
bad
don't know the
guy in
meaning of
Harry
the word.
Potter.
Okay, so mine is all right. So my grandpa loved taking cruises when I was a
Oh.
kid.
Okay.
And I don't think he does it anymore. I think he's too old, but he was the cruise guy. So
Nice.
he'd always be on cruising around, and he was just like a jet setter kind
Excellent.
of. He was what's the generation of the silent generation?
Oh, is that the one?
I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is he actually had a pension and he had a retirement and he actually had money, because that's how they used to do it.
Right.
He worked at a company for 50 years and they
Gave him a gold.
oh, and he was in the
Rolex and a-
military anyway.
Yeah.
So he just had money to do whatever he wanted to once he retired. So that
Nice.
was what he did.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, at some point, him and my uncle would always go cruising. They go to the Caribbean a lot, and so my mom at one point was like, somehow they got together and they're like, and she's like, hey, how would you feel like if me and Graham would go on a cruise with you? And I think my uncle was there too, and he's like, oh yeah, that would be great. And I think I was like 8.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think it was probably 1994.
Okay. My math says that's right.
I think. I'm just kind of spitballing here.
I looked at my wrist. That's my calendar watch.
Wow, your watch just seems invisible.
Yeah. It's just really small and discreet. It looks like a hair tie.
One of those AI watches that doesn't have a screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we booked this trip to the Caribbean.
Wow.
And I'm super excited. And we go. So we had to fly into. It's a little hazy, but I think Miami, somewhere in like Florida. I think we flew into, and then we ended up flying to Puerto Rico, and so we stayed for a couple of days in Puerto Rico before the cruise.
And you brought a game console with you, did you?
Oh yes, that was the infamous. It was so we actually I took several cruises when I was a kid, and I'm not sure which one that was.
Yeah,
but it was probably that incident that time.
Ruined your whole trip.
Oh my god, dude!
This cruise is no fun, Mom. I can't play my video games.
So if you guys just joining us and you missed the first half,
be crazy.
I don't know how you would do that.
I missed the first half, so yeah.
I was saying my first really cool game console I loved was the Game Gear, and I brought it on the airplane to the cruise or whatever, and somewhere in the middle I checked the bag in the belly of the plane, and somewhere along the line somebody looked through the bags and stole my fucking Game Gear. Yeah. So I'm not mad about it, it's fine. But when I was a kid, I melted down and I was very upset, and I should have just, I don't know why I didn't just take it in the plane with me. Well, he didn't have batteries. That's because of it. You can't play the thing when you're that.
Right.
Okay.
D-cell batteries will explode.
Yeah. The irony of those consoles is you couldn't play them because the batteries. You didn't have batteries. You needed 6 AA's, and it only lasted. Whatever. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent that I'm getting onto, going back to what we were talking about before. But anyway, so then we land, and I'm upset about the Game Gear thing. It's fine. Whatever. My dad says he'll give me another one, whatever. So, but we end up going to this resort, and like it's a super like awesome resort, and there's like a beach out there, and I remember, man, Puerto Rico is super cool. If you guys haven't been,
I have not.
It's an old Spanish like island, like whatever. They were like occupied by the Spaniards, and I want to say I don't know the exact dates, but like probably 1600s.
Okay.
And so all along, there's a whole stretch along the city of San Juan, Puerto Rico. San Juan, just making sure I get that right, where it's like the original city walls that butt up to the sea. And there are these turrets and stuff, and you can go walk along the city walls and into the turrets, and like it's just all like original from like...
Great Wall of Puerto Rico.
Exactly. And then there's a fort. So then we went to the fort, which was really cool. And it's like this old Spanish fort, and there's these giant cannons, and it's like basically like a castle on a hill.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then we like debark, whatever.
Embarked on your
exactly.
Deparked on debarked.
Got the hell out of there. Yeah.
Debarked.
Yes, we debarked onto the open ocean.
Nice.
And
ahoy.
Yeah, and have you guys ever been on a cruise?
I've never been on a cruise.
Okay, so I don't know if they do this anymore, but we had to go find our mustard stations.
What?
I called them mustard stations because I was a kid and thought it was funny.
Okay.
It was really called muster stations.
Okay.
And what it is, it's like a safety thing. So you go on to, it's like a safety drill.
Okay.
And you have, and so I'm assuming this is probably because of the Titanic that they like implemented all this stuff. But you literally have to like go and find your area, your specific lifeboat.
Oh, wow.
So you're like in your cabin or whatever, and then like woo muster drill, and then you like run up real quick, and out the door and find your like where you're supposed to be, and you're with your group that if the boat would ever go down, that's who you're stuck with. And there were, I believe there actually were. Yes, I think the boat is full of mustard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Colonel Mustard is also there. And anyway, so I do believe that there were adequate numbers of lifeboats
for everyone on the ship.
I think they've learned that lesson.
That's a good,
Do you think that they would actually, like, if hit an iceberg, you're going down, do you think that your family would have been like, all right, let's hit our muster station? Or do you think they would have been like, women and children first, we're going into whatever the closest lifeboat is? Like,
I don't know.
in theory, the panic might take that whole operation and just send it south.
I don't know. Humans are pretty rational beings.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're known for it.
I don't know. My mom is like very much like a reactionary. Like, I can see her being like, "What do I do?" Right? Like, you know, hair just lights on fire and it's running around in circles, kind of thing. That's I can see that happening potentially. Also, like this was like an older style of boat. And I just remember a lot of the hallways and the stairways were very narrow, and they had like the doors that closed for like, you know, in case we got into a storm or something.
Oh yeah.
I think they probably, I haven't been on a cruise like forever, but I'm just assuming that these new boats are probably a little bit like not as cramped.
Yeah.
The boat style was very old. Like,
Gotcha. Yeah.
but anyway, dude, it was so cool because I made friends with the waiter, and he was a guy, I think he was like from Jamaica or something.
Nice.
And he like took a shine to me, and he was like, somehow I got in this hot chocolate thing. And I was like, and it was like a thing where every time I would see him, so at dinner you were assigned a table, and then you had to
your mustard table,
the mustard table, yes, and then you had to dress nicely. You had to dress formal.
Oh, wow.
For every dinner.
Okay.
And then you
Did you have to, or did your parents make you?
You had to, otherwise they wouldn't let you eat.
That's crazy.
I paid for this cruise,
Yes.
and I have to also buy dress apparel so that I can eat. And if I don't bring it, what if all of you bring a whole box of suits, and then all of your suits light on fire and get thrown overboard, and then all you have is your basketball shorts and your tank tops.
Yeah, you're gonna
and
starve to death.
You
yeah.
go into the thing and they're like, "Nope, you can't eat."
No.
You're like, what?
I wanna-
No, I need to eat. This cruise is 2 weeks long, and they're like, "Sorry, dude."
I want to believe that, you know, similar to high schools where they have like the strict dress, or what do you call it, dress codes, and they would have, you know, like some ugly sweatshirt that they give the girls who are, you know, like their shoulders are exposed. They had just like a suit that
Just a one size fits
just
all
a
fat man suit. That you
very
just put
baggy
on.
suit full
What
of
if it's
holes.
like a tuxedo t-shirt
Yeah.
or something? They're like, "Sir, put this on." It's close enough.
Yeah.
No, but so so that's something that I hear has changed.
Okay.
So it used to be this. There's like a whole era, I think, of like this idea that a cruise was like this, like form, like highbrow, like
Yeah.
you know, like formal, like uppity affair thing.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, kind of close to the end of that era.
Now
Gotcha.
they have carnival.
Now,
Right.
yes, where it's like a buffet and everybody shows up in their leggings and like, you know, like flip flops. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, it was a whole thing. So like they seat you at a table with like 6 other guests or whatever. Of like, they're all like, one guy was British, another person was like from France. Like it was this whole thing. Like, and then you'd sit around with your like with your suit and you know, cut your bread and
Yeah.
you'd talk about, I don't know what the fuck you talk about. I don't know, whatever adults talked about. But anyway, my whole thing was like, me and the waiter had this thing, and I was like, "Can I have a hot chocolate, please?" And he's like, "Yes, sir, you may." And then he would bring it to me, and then I was like, drink it. I'm like, "Can I have another hot chocolate?" And he's like, would like wink at me. He's like, "Yep. Coming right up, sir." And I was like, "This is awesome." And
Just doing his job.
But I was like, as a kid, I'm like, "This is awesome. Every time I go to dinner,
Yeah.
I get as much hot chocolate as I want."
Mom was like, "We paid for that."
That's
Every
right.
single, you didn't see the bill, but
That's
hot
right.
chocolate on a Caribbean cruise is not
Yeah.
cheap.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
charge triple
I don't
for
know,
hot
like
drinks.
I would, and that's one of my memories, and I know it's like probably like innocuous, like to, but
Yeah.
like when you're a kid and like that's, you just want, you know,
Yeah.
this is unlimited hot chocolate, like, and then you go back home, you're like, man, I wish that, like, you know, you're at dinner and you get like
Waldo was
milk
here
or like
helping me out.
water, or and you're like, ugh,
You look at
Yeah.
your mom and you're like, "Hot chocolate, please," and she's like, "No,
no.
eat your vegetables."
You try winking
Yeah.
at her and she slaps you. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was a cool experience. We went to like all these islands, and like we like one of them, we rented a car, and this guy from a local guy, I don't know, probably just I think he was some guy on the street. It's probably not exactly the safest thing.
Yeah.
Really, he's like, we're like, "Can you take us around the island?" He's like, "Oh yeah," and then we get in his car and he's driving us around, and
Wow.
then we end up at this like in this forest. And this guy's climbing trees, like getting coconuts.
Oh,
and he's selling
Wait, the guy who was driving you?
No,
Oh,
just
okay.
some guy he takes us to, and
I thought what you were saying was this guy just took you to work with him.
All right, kid, climb up this tree.
Yeah.
You're gonna stand below actually, and I'm gonna cut the coconuts, and you're gonna catch them.
That's right.
yeah. So and then the guy cuts a coconut and he slices the
Yeah.
top and puts a straw in it, and we're just
Nice.
sitting there in the cab drinking coconut milk.
Awesome.
And then I realized, and then I started
Coconut milk is disgusting.
getting stings
No.
and like on my hand, and I look down and there's ants that are living in the coconut, and they were coming out and biting me.
Oh my goodness! And you were just drinking them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I was drinking them, but anyway, yeah. And then we went. The one of the most impactful things I remember is we made a stop in Venezuela, and we went to Caracas, and being like an American kid, you drive from the coast inland a little bit, and there's like this like literally a mountain full of kind of like tenements, and it's basically like people just building their house out of whatever they can get. It's like it's like a very like poverty thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Sure.
as a kid, you're like, wow, like, we have, it's like you stop kind of taking what you have for granted in a way of being like,
Yeah.
wow, like,
All right, now let's get back on
So,
the cruise
anyway,
ship.
yeah, but it was a little bit like, looking at it now, it's like a little weird because
Yeah.
like it's like Americans come in and they just like whatever, just
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to say like
those-
exploit it, but like there's something exploitative about that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Totally. I mean, there's like the entire community around those resorts. It's like everyone works at the resort. And you go just a couple of miles out, and it's, super impoverished areas. It's like sketchy, shady areas that just like you don't go
Yeah.
to those places. And everyone in the family that lives in this hut all goes and works at the resort to pay
Yeah.
for themselves and
Right.
or their lives, not themselves, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point as well, because I think, like, particularly in, growing up in the 90s and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there's just this, like, the message on TV and everywhere is just like, guys, we've done it. Everything's fixed. Society's great. Everyone has food, and that kind of thing. And you're kind of, like, surrounded with that all the time
Yeah.
in the States. And so to go somewhere like that, I'm sure would be very
Yeah, only
eye-opening.
in the Western world.
That's right, exactly.
I know. Yeah, it is kind of a.
bubble.
Yeah. I don't
Anyway.
know if that was still like a holdover from the Cold War, where it's like, look at us, we're so
Probably.
thriving so much or whatever. I don't know.
Could be.
But
So yeah. Anyway, like it turned out to be like a really like fun. It was like a culturally enriching experience as like
Yeah.
a little kid to be like, oh, this is what like kind of like a peek into what the rest of the world looks like. So,
Yeah.
and I've developed the sense of adventure and the love for travel ever since.
excellent.
So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good story. You want me to go next?
Sure.
good.
All right. So yeah, the trip that I decided to talk about, it's much less long and involved.
Sorry, I took up too much time.
No, that's
It's a
fine.
good topic. Yeah.
No, I was thinking like, should I think of more things to say? But it was a trip that we took. I kind of thought of the first time I remember going on vacation with my family, and we were living in New Zealand at this time. So we lived there from 94 to 96. So I was like age 4 to 6. I was born in 1990, so it's always easy to do the math.
Oh yeah, that's easy.
Yeah. But we went within New Zealand to a place called the Bay of Islands, which is a really cool name.
Yeah,
Wow,
for sure.
that's awesome.
And I looked it up before this, not much about it, just where it was. It's kind of like we lived in Auckland in New Zealand, and you kind of just like drive north, and it's like a very narrow country, so just drive up the middle of the country, and then you take a ferry to this area that's Bay of Islands. I don't know how they.
So there's a lot of islands in this bay.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Just checking.
I don't remember doing much with like boats and things like that, but it was like a very beachy area and
Nice.
like kind of more of like a resorty type thing. So we had lots of like fresh food, like seafood, fruit,
yeah.
and we played around on the beach. And I was just thinking about this, like I remember playing on the beach a lot, but it wasn't that unusual because like when we lived in Australia before that and where we lived in New Zealand, like we were in beach areas. So like we would go to the beach a lot as kids.
sure.
So it wasn't that unusual. But I remember like in the Bay of Islands, we were doing a lot of like, tide pooling. So like, wandering around looking at like what creatures ended up stuck in the tide pools.
That's
and the
actually
tide
one of
went
my
out.
favorite activities sometimes. Like
It's so much fun.
you're
Yeah.
like, oh, what is that weird ass looking
Yeah.
creature?
Yeah. And they had like, these.
Plastic bag.
That's right.
Oh, just trash.
Yeah, and they had like all these like little white fish and things like that. And we were like catching them and like putting them in buckets. And, I don't know, all this fun stuff like that.
That's cool.
But the thing that really sticks in my memory from this trip, and I don't know, I never trust my memory because I don't have like the best memory, especially for things that long ago. So maybe I made this up at some point. But the thing that I remember, the way I remember it happening is there was a whole day where my older sister, she's 3 years older than me, so she would have been, you know, like 8 or 9 or something like that. But the whole day she was just like, everything that's happening today is what happened in my dream last night. And I was just like, I didn't believe it. I was like, oh yeah? Did you think I would do this? And like I hit her or something like that. She's like, yeah. And I was like, no matter what I did.
Foolproof. You got it sealed up.
Right. No matter what happened, she had dreamed that. Like I suppose in retrospect, I should have asked her to predict things that were going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because she literally could be like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. No.
That's exactly happened.
That is. Yeah. That's exactly what she did all day. She's like, yeah, then that happened. And it's like, oh yeah, then Daniel like fell off of that curb like he just did. You know, it's like, no. Daniel's my brother. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't believe it. Maybe I started to by the end of the day. I don't remember, but
Oh my
Kids
god,
are
that's
funny.
yeah, I just remember being so frustrated. Like, there's no way that this all happened in your dream last night.
I can barely remember like the main things that happened in a dream, let alone a whole day's worth of activities.
Right, exactly. And so I bet if I brought this up to my sister today, it's like equally probable either she'd totally deny this, or she would still stick to her guns.
You're like, no, I dreamed it.
Well, she's probably going to listen to this, so you'll
That's right. Yeah.
you'll hear it eventually. You'll
Yeah.
get the
Get a
answer.
well-worded email from
Call in, Laura, and tell us your opinion.
Call
Yeah.
Should have a
So-
call in line.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
No,
I
but
email.
she did. She in her adulthood, she's a very
Email? What is this, 1993? Come on.
That's right. In her adulthood, she's a very like intuitive and like spiritual type person, and stuff like that. So like I wouldn't be surprised if she like just doubles down and is just like, yeah, from an early age, my dreams were prophetic or something, you know?
If she
So.
was really spiritual, you would think she would be like, you know what? I was lying. I have to get right with the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
I never dreamed that.
Unburden herself from her
That's right.
deception.
But there are like priorities of things.
James.
There are priorities of things, and you know, as an older sibling, I think being right is always a top priority.
I think you're very correct.
I would
So.
know.
I don't know. I'm an only child.
Oh. And it shows. No,
I'm
just
just
kidding.
agreeing with you all.
Yeah. So that's the story. The Bay of Islands. It was very pretty. I'd love
That's
to go
cool,
back
man.
and see
Yeah.
it again. Yeah.
That sounds like an adventure.
Sounds
Yeah.
super cool. Are some of the islands like, are they like really small, or is it
Yeah,
like
they're just
big?
little,
Are
yeah.
they inhabited by? Is there people that live on these islands, or?
I should have looked it up beforehand
No
to
worries.
remind myself.
Yeah, just
but,
curious.
yeah, I think it's just kind of like
Are
more
there
like a holiday type
kiwis
area.
There?
Like the birds?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, because New Zealanders also call themselves Kiwis.
Oh,
so
I
like,
know. No, sorry, I should have been more specific. Are
I
there
think
the actual
bird kiwi
birds?
is from.
Because I know there's actual, like, you know,
Yeah.
New Zealand, like, the
Yeah.
people, the
Yeah.
Kiwis.
But kiwi
Yeah.
fruit is
Yeah.
originally from China.
Well, I think that was named because it looks like the birds.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think there were kiwi fruit. Maybe, I don't know. But
Oh, man, so, wow, I just never thought about it until now. There's, like, 3 different categories
Right.
of Kiwis. And it all sounds like there's a very rich history there.
that's right. Yeah, let's do an episode on kiwis.
Yeah.
It's a real short episode.
I don't think they had the birds there. I think those are more,
Were
like on
there-
the mainland. And yeah.
Koalas?
I don't think they have koalas in New Zealand. Yeah, I think those are just Australia. So
What about Tasmanian devils?
those are in Tasmania.
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for what I'm saying right now.
No,
on the
because-
opposite
yeah.
side of
Basically,
the
all the hate will come from my brother, who's obsessed with Australia, and he'll be like, you know, how do you not know about Tasmanian devils? No,
Yeah. Okay.
actually, that is one of my brother's pet peeves. You know, to go on a tangent. You guys both know my brother, and all the people listening don't care. But he he loves Australia. We both were born there. Half of his identity is wanting to become an actual Australian citizen, but not like moving there, which would be the easy way. But whenever there's a like an outline of Australia, or like a map, like you know, on food packaging or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll sometimes miss Tasmania, which is like that little island on like the, you know, kind of the bottom right on the map, and they just like leave it off. And he's just like, how could they do this? How could they leave Tasmania? That's part of Australia, you know. Like so like whenever he sees something,
I appreciate the passion.
yeah.
You know?
So he'll
Something
like
to be said for that.
like at the zoo, like there'll be a map of like the range of these animals, and you know it's be like, why did they leave Tasmania off
Just
there? You know?
start bringing around like a silver Sharpie and just
Right.
like
I'm fixing this.
Yeah,
Black
exactly.
Sharpie, depending on the color of the background. But yeah, just
Yeah.
draw it onto every little map that you see. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So I am going to talk about a vacation that my family did a bunch of times. It was kind of our yearly vacation from when I was pretty young, and then we stopped going maybe when I was like 11, 12, maybe 13 was the last time we went. But we used to go to northern Wisconsin. It was my family
Exotic.
had my family had a cabin on a lake up there,
Nice.
kind of towards the Hayward city. If anyone listening is familiar, Hayward is kind of the closest town to that. But it was called Lac Coudray, and we had a cabin there, and it was on a lake, and we had a pontoon boat, and we would go there and spend, a week, maybe 2 weeks there, and just like cabin living. It was a small town, so we would go into Hayward and walk around this very touristy town. Like, basically all of the shops are like, shops that print T-shirts that have wolves looking at the moon on them.
Nice.
Like,
Those
like
t-shirts
novelty
were awesome.
T-shirts.
like the 3-wolf moon or whatever. Yeah.
Just like novelty T-shirts, and there was like a candy store, which is a huge part of my memory from there. There was a place called Tremblay's that was a candy store, and it was like this old-fashioned, kind of looked like cowboy saloon, and you would walk in, and there was like barrels full of saltwater taffy, and just like all these different candies.
As a
and it
kid,
was,
that's like your dream.
oh my gosh,
Yes.
dude!
We
it
had a
was like
candy store
dream.
next to my friend's house growing up, and dude, I can't tell you how much money we spent that place.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
It was like this classic candy store, and I don't even know if it would fly nowadays. Like, I did go back there a couple of years ago, and it had changed quite a bit.
Oh.
But back then it was like all of these wooden barrels, and it was just like candy. It wasn't like in little plastic packaging or anything.
Yeah.
It was like a bucket full of gummy bears,
Yes.
or a bucket
Did it have a
full
scoop or
Yep,
something?
and then
Yeah.
a scoop, and
Nice.
you got these
Okay.
like little bags, and you would do
Just
it.
stick your head right in and eat them.
Yeah.
You just grab a handful.
They weigh you.
Sanitary.
They weigh you before, and then they weigh you as you walk out. And
I
that's
would
however
love
much
that,
you-
actually.
Sir, you've eaten 2 pounds of candy?
for a sketch show.
Oh yeah.
That's a good,
that
not a
is
bad
good
idea.
one. Yeah.
But they would make their own fudge there. That was like a huge thing.
Oh,
they
nice.
Had, and there was this like big glass window that you could watch them making the fudge and like whatever. And they made their
Nice.
own taffy there, I think, too. So you
Cool.
could watch them like stretching the taffy and cutting
Yeah.
it and all this stuff.
That's even cooler that the stuff is made there.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
wasn't all of the candy, but
Yeah.
it was like the saltwater taffy and the fudge and maybe a few other things.
Yeah.
But I've discovered one of my favorite candies still to this day there, which is they're grapefruit gummies. They're like little grapefruit slices, but they're like candy, obviously.
Yeah.
I love those things.
They're so
They're-
good.
they're the
They have,
ones-
like a white and a pink variety.
Yeah, they're the ones where it's like it's not like chewy like a gummy bear. It's like you bite it and it just like your teeth slice through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's not chewy like a
And there's like
Yeah, yeah.
sugar on the outside, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I do know those, and those are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like what I would say like peachy rings, maybe, kind of, except
Yeah.
for not
Yeah.
as chewy still. Like,
Yeah.
they're very just like
It's almost more like hardened Jello
yeah,
rather than
totally.
like yeah.
good-
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like the one. That was the thing. Like my siblings would all go walk through, and we'd pick our thing, whatever, and everyone would come out with a bag of an assorted candy, and I would have like just a bag full of those because
Nice.
I loved them so much.
And it's fruit, so it's good for you.
Yeah, right. I'm just obviously me choosing the healthy option.
That's
as
right.
per usual.
Exactly.
But that was like the main town that was the closest, and like we went there a couple of years ago during COVID, essentially, when everything was shut down. My brother and a couple of our friends went out there and stayed there because our family still owns the same cabin.
Nice.
And it was really interesting to go back through, and like of course we went to like some of the breweries and things that we wouldn't
Yeah.
have done as children.
Oh, you didn't drink beer much as a kid?
Well, not out.
yeah. Actually, that's a good point. It was Wisconsin, so
Yeah, the drinking age there is way different. But the things I remember are like
yeah. Screw you, anyone listening from Wisconsin.
yeah, eh.
Yeah.
But a bunch of lake play. Like we had
Yeah.
at the time some of the neighbors who were kind of had kids the same age as us.
Mm-hmm.
One specific family had like a raft. And so when I was way
Was it a
younger,
big yellow raft?
so yes, eventually.
Oh,
But
okay.
Did you
at
tow it
first-
behind a boat?
No, so that there was some of that as
Okay,
well. But
those are always my favorite one. Like,
dude,
Yeah.
like inner tubing, hell yeah, that's
Yeah.
part of this. But
Yeah.
one of the neighbors had like it was a fixed thing that was like chained to the ground, and at first for a long time it was just this like wooden dock thing basically
yeah,
that
yeah,
like
yeah.
floated out there, and it had green like turf kind of
Yep.
situation on it.
I know that kind of thing, yeah.
It just like floated out there, but it was like it got really grimy and gross and age beaten or whatever. So eventually he got a new one, and it was like this still chained down, still fixed in place, but it was like a massive trampoline.
Oh.
And so it was like this huge yellow raft.
Yeah.
But the place where you would stand on was like a trampoline.
That's
And
so crazy.
It was so fun because
Yeah.
like all of us would just go out there, and it was like the size of your backyard trampoline
Yeah.
times like 3. So it was huge.
Whoa.
And you would just go out and jump around on it and
Yeah.
float around, and it was so fun. And I
so did you guys like jump as high as you could and jump into the water and stuff?
yeah,
Like
jump off and try to
sounds
boost
so
each other
much
up
fun.
and do that. But I specifically remember horseflies.
Oh yeah.
Oh
the
god.
biting flies, and
Yeah.
we'd be out, and it's far enough off the dock to where you're out in the middle of the water, quote, not even close to the middle of the
Yeah.
water, but far enough out. And so we're all jumping around, and then as it would get towards evening time, the horseflies would come out, and mosquitoes and stuff,
Yeah.
but it would be like horseflies, and you would see a swarm of them like start coming around, and
No
we'd have
kidding.
to like jump off and like get in the water and try
Yeah.
to hide from them, and it was like they would
God.
bite and they hurt. So
Yeah.
They
like,
swarmed you.
not like I wouldn't say like swarm.
I'm
like
just
you
imagining
imagine.
like a bee swarm of bees.
Yeah,
Right.
it wasn't quite that severe.
That's like
of
a
course,
horror
but it
film
would
forming
be
into an
all of a
arrow and
sudden,
chasing you.
like,
Yeah.
just come in. No,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be like a swarm, but all of a sudden there
Yeah.
would be, 10,
Yeah.
15, 20, 100, and
Yeah.
then like you would be out there, and then as the evening came, they would just start to come out.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, all right, we're done on the raft because
Yeah.
you can't be out here because you're just going to get eaten to shit by these
Yeah. Oh, the
bugs.
horseflies. Horseflies
Yeah.
are the worst.
But so that was a fun memory, and then I tried my hand at water skiing a little bit,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was kind of too young to really like get it. Like my mom liked to water ski, and I think my dad was pretty into it. But we had another neighbor just down the way that had a speedboat. So
Yeah.
everyone else had pontoons except for he had like a speedboat.
Nice.
And he had a raft or like a tube,
Inner tube. Yeah.
and that we would go tubing on, and he would take us ripping, and it was a flat one, so it was like a pancake.
Oh, okay.
And 3 people could go on, and you would lay on your stomach and hold
Yeah.
on just
Yeah.
with your hands, and he would get it going. At least at the time, I remember it just being so fast. And it was
Yeah.
just like you would be holding on tight for dear life, and he
Yep.
would do like donuts where he would just like whip you around in a circle and just keep going and going and going until some kid just like skipped off like a skipping stone,
Yep.
and then they'd stop. And
You're
so
pulling
bad.
like multiple G's at that point.
Yeah, like,
You're like, I'm faster now.
yeah, your
Yeah.
face is like smeared to the side for a while, but
Yeah.
that was like some of my favorite childhood memories was just like tubing on this boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was one specific time where we were going, and he was like doing some sharp turn, and some jet ski had just ripped past, and so there was like a jet ski
damn.
wake.
Yeah.
That was like this huge wave coming off.
Oh, yeah.
And he hit it, and all 3 of us, like the tube launched probably 20 feet in the air, and all 3 of us like let go, and we're just like floating in midair, and we all like slammed down and belly flopped, and
Oh.
that was like end of the day for us because we were
Nice.
like all just hurt. It was
Yeah.
it was literally like
And
injuries.
also, how can you outdo that?
Yeah, and yeah,
You like see your life flash before your eyes in slow
Yeah.
motion.
you're like up in the air, like
Yeah.
arms flailing,
Yeah.
just like
And then it freeze frames, and it's like, you might be wondering how I got here.
exactly, yeah, just
Yeah.
and it was like, and it hurt, and then it was like the
Yeah.
day was over because everyone was
Wow.
injured.
That's awesome.
Like,
Everyone is injured.
I mean, it wasn't like permanent injuries, but it was like, okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's
Oh.
time to go home.
We've all belly flopped before.
Yeah, that's right.
but
It's not fun.
that was always just super fun memory. Did you
Yeah.
guys ever do any like tubing experiences?
Yeah. Have I told you that my family has a cabin up in Minnesota?
No, I think you told me about something in like northern Georgia.
Yeah, okay, so that's on my dad's side. My aunt and
Okay.
uncle had a summer place out there, which now we've inherited in our family. But yeah, my mom's side of the family, my grandfather, so my mom's father, Well, actually, sorry. It was her mother's father. So my great-grandfather.
Once removed.
Yeah, why don't you describe how that family dynamic
Right. I'll give you all the names and birth certificates and
social security numbers.
Yeah. No, there was a group of people who had like immigrated from Norway, moved to Minnesota. There's a lot of Norwegians up in Minnesota. They're a very, Christian lot. And so a group of people from the city, I'm probably telling the story wrong, but you guys don't need to fact check. But basically they kind of developed this set of cabins on a lake a few hours outside of the city. Like, you drive like 3 hours. And it's in a county called Ottertail.
Is it like a convent or?
No. So it's
Sorry, you just said Christian.
Yeah. Well, no. So, the reason that's important is because I guess the faith was kind of the thing they had in common. So there's still like a clearing in the woods, which is like the church in the woods. There's just like like a cross. And so my grandfather, my mom's father, ended up being a pastor. And so for a long time, he would do a lot of the services in the summer out there, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it was this community of people who just like set up this area, and they kind of all built their cabins on the lake. And then over the years, they've gone like down through those families, and so there's like now a few cabins that belong to this family, that kind of stuff. The one that is my family's one, it's like my grandparents, they were the ones who ended up with it. My grandmother kind of claimed it, and her brother ended up buying a different one, like on the lake, kind of across the way.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was always like, me and my cousins and my aunts and uncles, that kind of stuff. We go out there in the summer. But yeah, all these things you're talking about, I was doing my best not to interrupt you and just be like, oh yeah, at our cabin. Because there's like, right. Well, because there's like the old timey candy store. It's called Granny's Pantry. It's in Battle Lake, which is a little town nearby.
Pantry is a little too close to Granny's Pantry.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Carry on. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. But no, they had like the barrels of candy, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Horseflies. I don't remember any waves of horseflies, so that sounds like a Wisconsin problem.
I might be over-exaggerating that, too.
So you said Minnesota.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, this is, it's Ottertail County, Minnesota. If you, I don't know why you would, but do you know where Fargo is in North Dakota?
I do.
So if you
Of course. Have you ever seen the movie?
Yes, I have.
There,
Yeah, nice.
So
So if you're kind of driving from like Minneapolis towards Fargo, it's like kind of that-ish direction.
Okay. Got it.
But the inner tubing. I remember we mostly had like the one where it's it just like kind of a ring, and it had like this kind of fabric thing that fits around it, and then there's handles on there, and of course when we were kids we would try to fit as many of us on there as we could, and then like my uncle would be going slow, but then like he couldn't help it and he'd go fast, and all of a sudden we all go flying off, yeah. So that's fun. Yeah. Fun experience. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom is from Minnesota, so that's where she was born.
Oh, nice.
So,
Whereabouts in Minnesota?
Like Twin Cities.
Okay, yeah.
In there somewhere, St. Paul somewhere, I think.
Yeah, nice.
But it's kind of the same thing with my mom's family. Is like a lot of her cousins, like my grandfather's father owned the cabin that we used to stay at. So my grandpa kind of took over that, and then some of his siblings have cabins on the same lake, just like down the way.
Yeah,
so it's kind of the same thing where like, the family found the lake and was like, all right, now we have three cabins on the lake, and then it gets passed down. So
it makes sense that your mother's from Minnesota, because that's like a big thing in Minnesota. Is like a lot of families have their family cabins, and then like in the summer.
Is it Minnesota is known for lakes? Like they have
land of 1,000 lakes.
Yeah,
10,000. Yeah,
land of 1,000 lakes times 10.
That's right, exactly. I don't think they actually have the most lakes of all the states, but they associate themselves with lakes a lot.
I looked on Google Maps once, and like once you get up north, like there's a shitload of lakes, man. Yeah, there's a lot of lakes up there.
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah, no, like I know that my cousins who like actually lived in Minnesota, like a lot of the time in the summer, they'd be like going to their friend's cabin for the weekend or that kind of thing. Like all the people kind of like.
Fishing was a big thing.
Yeah.
I am not into fishing. Like, it was something my grandpa did, my dad did. All this stuff, we'd be up there and get on the pontoon and go fishing. And there was a couple of things that I think turned me off on fishing when I was pretty young, and I still don't like fishing or fish to this day, really.
The taste.
The taste, like I don't like eating. Yeah, because it tastes bad.
It tastes like fish.
But I think a huge thing that turned me off is when we were younger. When I was younger, we went fishing and I caught some fish, and then my dad was like, "We're eating these for dinner tonight," and I was like, "Sweet, that's cool." And then he was like, "Okay,
here's how you clean them."
Yeah, you're cleaning it, and
yeah.
taught me how. And after that, it just was a huge thing.
Oh yeah, you slit it open from the butthole up, and then
pull
you
the bones out. There's a whole thing, but also two separate times.
That's I can see that being traumatic.
Yeah, I was like young enough to where
Yeah.
it was traumatic, and
Yeah.
then just after that, it was like something else. Nope, I don't like it, and still to this day, I don't eat anything from the water.
And you got to make sure you don't
Thank you.
open like bust the stomach or intestines because then it's a huge.
There's bile everywhere. But
Yeah.
also, when I was little, we went out on the fishing boat, and you guys might not know this about me, but I'm like bare feet guy. Like
Oh, okay.
I've never really been bare feet around you because I'm always
Because we're
like,
in a city with broken glass.
Do you have
yeah.
those
But
shoes
I like-
that like look like bare feet?
No. Flip flops is the closest thing. And
Okay.
I wear flip flops.
You
Like
know what I'm talking about, the ones that have like the
toes.
toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the ones that people said were really good for running for a while, but then it turns out you injure your feet easier
Ergonomically
or
good
whatever.
for your feet
yeah.
until your feet break.
Yeah.
But so I was like, as a kid, always barefoot.
Yeah.
Constantly. And we're up there, and I remember multiple times stepping on toads and just squishing them.
Oh, yeah,
bare feet.
yeah.
But that's a separate memory. The memory that I'm talking about is on the pontoon boat. There's two separate times when I stepped on a fish hook. And it like
I knew
went,
that's where I was
went through my foot in one way or another, and had to get like cut the end off.
Do not like.
Yeah, so
That's giving me a little bit of like the creeps.
yeah,
Like,
it just
yeah.
and there was
Like,
one time when my
yeah.
dad and my grandpa were fishing, and my grandpa cast back his fishing line, and the fishing hook hooked into the back of my dad's head.
No.
And like pulled it. My dad still has the hat. It's this bright yellow hat that has a fishing hook in it, and like and there's a little blood stain on it because it like literally came back and like hooked my dad's head and like pulled, and he couldn't get it out, and he had to like go get it taken out of his head by the doctor. And the doctor was like, "Oh, you'd be shocked at." They had like a wall of lures that they just like cut out of people's bodies because they're like, "Oh, it happens like all the time." That doesn't sound fun to me. I love boats. I love
Yeah.
being on a boat, but fishing, like maybe as an adult now, it would be fun to go out just with your friends and just like sit around
I don't
and
know,
drink some
man.
beers and hang out in the sun. But like I would rather just
Honestly,
go out
like,
and not fish. Like just go chill
fishing
out.
to me is boring. Like
Gross. You have to like touch the worm.
I don't know, like
Yeah.
And then you have to
And then
touch the fishes.
one time my
Yeah.
dad took me ice fishing and I was like,
that sounds more fun to me.
yeah, but I'm like,
Than
yeah,
boat
but
fishing.
we weren't in like a cabin or anything cool. We were like on, like exposed to the elements.
Not in like a little hut.
Yeah,
or
and I'm
anything.
like freezing my ass. I'm like, why? What is the purpose of
Yeah, I
this?
feel like you did it
I'm
wrong.
tired
Yeah.
of digging these holes.
I don't
That's
think-
too damn bad.
I kind of don't think my dad really knew how to like do it right. He's like, we're going fishing, and he thought it was something to do. But I think like the way we did it was probably not the way that most people do it.
I've mostly heard about like the little hut things.
Like I was
so,
watching
yeah.
don't ask me why. I was watching Grumpy Old Men the other day.
Nice. Yep.
Cool.
And I guess the
It's a
guy,
classic. Yeah.
one of the guy, I don't remember the character's name, is Walter Matthau. Like,
Yeah.
pisses off the other guy because he like sleeps with his girlfriend or something, and then one of the scenes they're like all in these ice fishing huts,
Right.
but they're on skis, and so the guy gets mad and he drives his car into the hut,
Yeah.
and it skis across the lake and goes into
That's right. I remember liking that movie when I was a kid. Most of it doesn't stick, but I remember an image of an ice hut being like pushed. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. It must have just been on.
Yeah. Nice.
I don't really identify with that movie yet.
Yeah. Some of my family who lives in Minnesota or whatever has talked a lot about, like, when we went there during COVID, they were like, you need to come back in the winter time. And I'm like, why would I come somewhere where it's like negative degrees and
Yeah.
freezing
to
fucking
build
cold
character?
all the time?
No.
But they insisted, everybody who I know who like my family who like lives in that general area who is there a lot, they're like, winter is way more fun because you can go snowmobiling and the lake freezes over and you just go shred across the lake.
I
And
gotta
like,
say, snowmobiling is one of the like most fun things.
it's pretty fun.
I've never
Yeah.
actually done that.
I've only done it maybe like once or twice on like the back of somebody's. Like I've never,
Yeah.
I think I was too young to ever do it, but we never went there in the wintertime. But they're like, as an adult, it's super fun. Come out, borrow one of our snowmobiles.
You can go on
and
the
just
lake
go
because the
shred.
ice is like so frozen.
Yeah, it's so
Nice.
frozen over.
Nice.
And there's
That's
like
cool.
restaurants and bars and stuff that in the summertime you would take your boat across the lake, which is a really cool thing. Like, take the boat across the lake and park it at the dock at the restaurant and just go eat and then get back in your boat, and you don't drive anywhere, you just take your boat there.
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, you just do that with your snowmobile. You just
That's
shred
really
across
cool.
the lake. And I'm like, that does sound pretty fun, but also, yeah, I'm like, vacation. I'm going to go out
Yeah.
when it's sunny and I can go take a dip in the lake and whatever.
yeah.
And they're like, no, come when it's freezing cold. And there's
Yeah.
like 2 feet of snow and ice on the ground, and that's when it's the most fun. I'm like, that doesn't sound like vacation to me,
Right.
but the
I
way
don't know.
they
It's like
described
some people go on ski vacations and
Totally.
stuff.
That's
and
true,
It's a
yeah.
whole thing. As long as you have a place to warm up at the end of the day, I think you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that is
Lodge or something next to a fire, you know?
Sit
Yeah.
out and like have a cup of hot
Yeah,
cocoa.
hot cocoa.
You're like, hey, another hot cocoa, and they're like,
Hey.
that's gonna be $17, and you're like, what? And they're like, it's winter in St. Paul.
That's right. Yeah. No,
Inflation.
This is an extremely valuable commodity. All right, well, we're running out of time, so I think that's going to finish it off for the episode today. If you like it, feel free to reach out to us. We're going to have some socials set up here pretty soon. Website, email. Start asking for some suggestions from you here in the near future.
and if you don't like it, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Wax Nostalgic, and
Yeah.
we will see you on the other side.
Yeah.
Later.
Bye.
Wax Nostalgic Podcast was produced and recorded at Black Dove Studios in Denver, Colorado. Audio post-production and engineering by Sam Bagnall. Video production and post-production by Graham Johnstone. IT and social media management by Ryan Kerwin. Check out this and other creative projects by adding to the noise at attnlab.com. That's attnlab.com.